Okay, just making another. I'm inserting chapters here and there and chapter introductions and things as I'm going because I'm finding things I had holes I need to fill up. So, one of the things about kind of levels of testing, levels and types of testing. Um, and I remember that being in this in the LinkedIn thread in one of the machine translation groups, or two of them, where back in 2009, 2010, I'm pretty sure back in 2009, we had this whole debate over levels of testing, metrics, da da da, and all that kind of stuff. And I already talked about the chapter about Blue and Meteor and all that stuff, right? But but I'm going to introduce this one, saying that the the whole thing when you're doing software, when you're doing testing of anything, I'm not going to say software testing, I'm going to say testing of anything, okay? Is, but you see this in software because in software you got these builds. These builds are actually like iterations, right? You're just building the same thing up and then you're doing it. And so you're making a build. And you can rebuild the thing like in the next 5 minutes if you get something screwed up and you forgot something in the process, right? So you can rebuild it. The whole thing when you do, and I'm going to use a software testing kind of example because it's easier to do because it's not like this, you're not testing like a training course or something, which is a little more complicated, right? Software is like what you do in a software cycle is you have different levels. And I think I mentioned this other chapter, but I'm mentioning you'd say here you have sanity checking. That we call this smoke screen checking too. So we call this smoke screen or sanity checking. Some people make the difference between the two, some don't. I'm not going to make the difference. And I would do two different levels of that. Even, okay? So sanity checking, then smoke screen checking for me, because they're two different things, but we can group them together, okay? Then you go into unit testing, but you got to make sure that the thing actually launches, right? If the software doesn't launch, then we're not going to go anywhere, right? So you want out, out. That's even one. It's a level of 3. Out, in or out, right? In or out too. But then you want to make sure that the kind of the basic features just function. You can open them up and they work, right? They just kind of do a check. They open work. 3, good, maybe bad. Good, maybe bad. Good, maybe set right. And so the whole goal is in the sanity checks is actually kind of figured, is it worth going to the next level, right? So, and then you go into unit testing, and unit testing, you start testing each of the features individually and all that kind of stuff, and whatever. And then you suddenly get into integration and suite testing. Integration testing is kind of to integrate in the other thing. And the suite testing, you look at the whole thing across the workflow, across that feature, across different things, and just kind of integrate in other things. I don't want to go in. I mean, this all kind of depends, right? But when you're doing a full integration testing with some features that kind of go into other things and work with other places, but you can have this in other things like a car. You're testing a car, you can have it's all integrated in one thing, right? But you get you might have the electronics that are actually working in one thing, but actually working elsewhere. So they might be affecting two different things, right? Or your radio on or off or something, or your Wi-Fi in your radio, or the Bluetooth on your thing is radio. It's affecting two things. It's affecting electronics and affecting just your hearing as the experience, right? So there can be different things you're kind of testing for. But you want to make sure that you're going through and applying these cycles of tests and not trying to do detailed testing too early. The problem with most software I've seen, it's not just software, is you're trying to apply the testing at a detailed level too early on. So it's too time consuming and costs too much. And that's why people don't like testing, because they say it takes too much time, it's too costly, right? Yes, because that's why I say that testing it's not a worthwhile thing because it takes too much time. Well, you don't have to take much time if you take the simple approach. Take the simple approach, you keep it down, and then when you get the software testing levels with the unit testing, when you start really testing it at a high level, advanced level, then you integrate you kind of propose the level of testing and evaluation criteria that's more advanced, right? But that's where you start doing it. Don't do it too early. Keep the testing cost down. Um, find the bugs, with just three levels. It's really easy to do this. Um, then when you get into the kind of the user experience testing, where you want to see what the users really think after you've gotten through all these bug level things, the unit testing stuff, and you want to stick it with the users, think about it. Then give them a 3 level to kind of give them just a quick shot at it to see if they like this stuff or not. Then take it to the next level, 5, 7, or 9. But don't bombard them in the beginning. Okay. Um, believe me, I've tried doing this everywhere. But take this approach of these different types of testing. If you don't know what they are, then there are books on this, and there are other things on this, and there are all kinds of different levels of things. I don't want to go through and do another book on, you know, uh, testing cycles. That's not my goal here. It's kind of say what the testing cycles you got, how do you apply it, and then you do it, and use just a new approach to it, right? Um, but if you don't know any of these words, sanity and smoke check and smoke test and unit and integration and suite and all these things, then you got to go read another book. You got to read the other materials about this, right? Because I don't want to redo this here. I don't want to make another book on that. Say that, and then apply this to other things like training assessments, training classes. I even seen here, like you go this and go to and you do online. You go to restaurants. You go to restaurants a lot and they have this online. Hey, please rate us and stuff, or how we rate your experience of bought some things a couple things recently for my son. We went there, bought a Switch, or we bought some game stuff, or I went and bought some I bought them things, and they always send you this evaluation. How did it go? Well, don't send everybody this 9 or 10 point thing with 10 questions. Or car dealers do this too. How was your experience with the car dealer the last time you took your car in for a checkup? And people send this thing with 10 questions with 10 different values. It's too complicated, folks. And I'm telling you, they tell you behind the scenes, please vote for us high, because the Net Promoter Score. They didn't even know what it's called. They didn't know it's called NPS. I know what it's called, but just don't let them do that, okay? So I just suggest keep your values low. Keep your values low when you're getting the users the first time and stuff. And then when you start to get how did you really like it and the more advanced stuff, then start to think of the advanced levels, the higher, especially 7 and 9 values. Just don't do it early on. You irritate the users, especially if they have to do multiple checks. And every quarter you're doing these quarterly checks. Yeah, it's going to throw off your metrics. Yeah, it's going to do, because you're going to one time you're going to have 3 and one time you're going to have 5, and you're going to say we didn't ask the same questions every time, so we can't show the year to year to year to year stuff. Well, do it differently. Find another way to do it, but don't just irritate your users because they won't fill out the survey, right? If it's too long. So keep it simple. Keep it simple. I'm not saying there's a magic formula, but just keep it simple and find out the best way for you to do it. And if you need some help, call me, right? We'll figure it out. So that's at least my thing on why we need to, why we need to be applying this thing. Okay, thanks.